I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. And this is Currents.
It's needed now more than ever. How a local food pantry is feeding today's hungry.
There might be stuff in there that they don't like. The kids might not eat. They might be allergic to, so we're giving them an option to go ahead and order what it is that they want.
A look back at Pope Benedict's historic trip to the United Kingdom.
We'll see the full impact of this trip, but really in terms of 10 and 20 years.
And the field at MCU Park was even greener for this year's Great Irish Fair.
Yo, it's really nice here. Really, people are happy, look happy.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Some surprising news today. An independent report said that the recession is actually over. Not only that, it ended in June of last year. But try telling that to the more than 43 million Americans, 1 in 7, who, according to the latest census figures, were living in poverty last year.
Yes, and poverty forces many families to make some very difficult choices, including deciding between necessities like food, clothing, and medicine. Well, one organization doing its part to help feed people is St. John's Bread and Life. It's a food pantry founded at St. John the Baptist Parish in Bedford-Stuyvesant back in 1982.
And as technology has advanced since then, well, so too has this Brooklyn institution.
St. John's Bread and Life is 28 years old, originally founded in St. John the Baptist Parish. Our digital food pantry started when we moved to this new facility in June 2008.
So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and order some veggies, all right? So if you touch, this is touch screen, very simple.
People receive a swipe card with a certain amount of points on it for their family. Larger families, more points, smaller families, less points. They swipe it and then choose certain items that are worth a certain amount of points. And one of the things we've done is stilted the points that more nutritious food, if you will, is cheaper, less nutritious is more expensive.
You know, the privileges of this system is that oftentimes people go into food pantries and they get a pre-packed bag. There might be stuff in there that they don't like. The kids might not eat. They might be allergic to, so we're giving them an option to go ahead and order what it is that they want.
Progress is progress, you know. All you do is press a button and get what you want. I'm a diabetic. I can't eat everything, you know. And you got to choose what you eat because you can get sick easy. In Bed-Stuy, we have a high number of people with diabetes and hypertension. We don't only want to just provide the food, but nutritious foods as well.
We've seen an 85% increase in our food pantry. And that seems to be a direct result of really the recession. Last year we saw over 14,000 families, serving over about 190,000 meals to them. We offer food stamp application, our medical services, our legal services, our immigration services, and the like. Our mission and our reason for being here is twofold. One is to bring emergency food to folks who need it. The second is to bring the services necessary either for them to reduce their need for our emergency food and or to prevent things from getting worse.
This place has been a blessing for me, truly been a blessing for me. I live in a 3-quarter house because I was burned out in 2006.
So I'm looking for housing too. And they help you upstairs. It's a great place. A lot of stuff you get here.
We are called, in the words of St. Vincent de Paul, to encounter the face of Christ in the poor. If I don't encounter Christ in this life, then I will have no idea who he is in the next. So that's the process that goes on daily here.
I always tell my staff that my clients ought to be treated with respect and dignity. I don't care what walks of life they come from. Doesn't matter to me. You will treat them with respect.
They treat you like you have a soul and that your soul is worthwhile.
Well, you can also check out some of the other stories that we've done on St. John's Bread and Life on our website, currentsny.net.
But stay tuned, though. When Currents returns, we'll have the day's headlines, including a surprise announcement from Rome as one of Brooklyn's bishops resigns.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, we'll take you to a festival that gives the term going green just a slightly different meaning.
But first, let's turn to the day's headlines. Pope Benedict is back in Rome today after his 4-day visit to the United Kingdom, a trip the Vatican declared a great success. Just before the Pope left the country, British Prime Minister David Cameron said the pontiff, quote, challenged the whole country to sit up and think, and that can only be a good thing. Benedict thanked the people of the UK for their warm welcome, despite the fact that tens of thousands of people took to the streets in protest of the trip. But reports say the crowds at the Pope's public events were much larger than any protest. In a statement, the Vatican said Benedict was able to successfully reach out to the British people amid anger over the sex abuse scandal. We'll have more analysis of the Pope's trip a little later in the show. Back here in Brooklyn, Auxiliary Bishop Ignatius Catanello has resigned. Bishop Catanello has been a priest in the Brooklyn Diocese since 1966. He was ordained as a bishop in 1994. The Diocese of Brooklyn says the 72-year-old bishop resigned for health reasons. Last year, Bishop Catanello visited the Net Studios and blessed our facilities during the dedication for our new building. In a statement, Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio said Catanello has been a wonderful parish priest, pastor, and teacher to young men preparing for the priesthood. Bishop DiMarzio said that he is praying for Bishop Catanello's full recovery. Meantime, in Queens, Muslim group leaders from 20 groups around the country met yesterday amid controversy over a proposed Islamic center near Ground Zero. Today, they called for a national week for dialogue next month in which Muslims would promote understanding by keeping their houses of worship open to all. Reports say the National Week for Dialogue would focus on the weekend of October 22nd through the 24th. The leaders also said that in America, people of all faiths should be able to build houses of worship where they choose.
Well, as rebuilding continues in Haiti following January's deadly earthquake, Catholics in Arizona are pledging their support. Catholic News Agency reports several groups there recently committed to providing long-term aid to Haitians. One group called Action by Christians for Haiti will be sending money, water filtration systems, and carpenters to teach people the trade. The group is partnering with a large Catholic parish outside Port-au-Prince. Now, another Arizona-based group, Caritas in Veritate, or Charity in Truth, has plans to build a whole village on the outskirts of the capital city. The project is slated to cost around $10 million. Well, in Belgium, Catholic Church officials are concerned about their finances after a recent controversy over clergy sex abuse. The Belgian government gives the church more than $417 million a year, and much of that goes to pay for the salaries for priests and bishops and to maintain church buildings. Reports say those funds could be in jeopardy after the Catholic Church in Belgium admitted this month that there had been widespread sexual abuse by its clergy over the last 50 years. And finally, today is Everybody Pray for Christopher Hitchens Day, but the outspoken atheist author says he will not be participating. Hitchens, who has written such books as God is Not Great, has esophageal cancer and is undergoing chemotherapy treatment. Hitchens told the Associated Press he does not know who came up with the idea for Everybody Pray for Hitchens Day, but he said if people are praying for his healing, that is a nice gesture. He also said he does not believe he will have a deathbed conversion.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up.
Just ahead, a leading Vatican watcher gives us his perspective on the Pope's trip to the UK.
That memorable line on Thursday in Glasgow, that church belongs to you. And so saying, pick up the torch. You know, the prior generation tried some ideas that maybe have not gone over.
Welcome back. Well, with Pope Benedict's historic trip to the United Kingdom now over, the early reviews started to kind of trickle in here. The Times of London said that Ratzinger the Rottweiler transformed into Benny the Bunny. And from the Daily Mail, this was much more successful than the Roman Catholic hierarchy had even dared to hope.
Benny the Bunny, I like that one. Well, for another perspective on all of this, we sat down yesterday to talk with Currents contributor and blogger Rocco Palmo.
And Rocco, thank you for all of your contributions over the papal visit to the United Kingdom. And as the blogger of Whispers in the Loggia, what do you really think was the main point that came out of this trip? I mean, did the Pope accomplish what he wanted to accomplish? What have you been hearing?
Well, I think, Francesca, just looking at the first day, the first kind of reaction, the trip has surpassed every expectation. The crowds were larger than expected. The weather, thank God, cooperated. British fall can be cold. But we'll see the full impact of this trip and the way this Holy Father looks at things, not so much in terms of 24-hour news cycle or what's going to happen this week or next week, but really in terms of 10 and 20 years. And I think there were 2 points to this trip. First off, to British society at large and to the church, faith has a role in public life in Britain. Second part, to the young people. I mean, there was that memorable line on Thursday in Glasgow, that church belongs to you, to the young, and so saying, pick up the torch. The prior generation tried some ideas that maybe have not gone over so well or had the best effect. Try again, try it differently, and we'll see what happens.
Sure.
Yeah. And of course, other themes that were part of this week were ecumenism and interreligious affairs as well, and interreligious dialogue, and also that sort of along those same lines about working together for the common good and reconciliation, as we were saying the other day, among religions. Do you think that message got across?
I think it did. I think the British press, for all the controversy and for all the kind of flack that was happening before the trip happened, if anything, the protests, the turnouts, and the strength of the Pope's message really served to wipe everything else off the map. There's something about that white. It just has like a magical impact. Once it comes down, it just changes everything. And so the British press, was very kind of, good, very thorough in conveying what the Pope had to say, but also the one thing that could have served to kind of throw the Pope stuff off message, the protests, really didn't amount to much. We heard that, it got this massive coverage, but yesterday or Saturday in London, they only had at most 20,000. I think they were saying the actual estimate was like 11,000 people. At the same time, the Pope had 80,000 in Hyde Park. So by the most generous estimate of protesters, the Pope still won 4-1. Yeah. And there was no security for to get into the marches, unlike with the Pope. So it was, again, I think every storyline that we saw going into the trip ended up getting turned on its head in the Pope's favor.
And how do you think these things are going to start to be put into action now that the Pope has sort of said, here's what I'd like you to do, or here's what I think? How does then one go about, or a culture or a society go about then implementing some of his recommendations?
Well, I think it's, again, there was, the kind of general concept that he gave, but basically he's saying, figure it out. Infallibility does not extend to knowing every nuance of the British situation, and saying, I trust you. I trust you. Even to the young people, again, on Saturday outside Westminster Cathedral, was open your heart, open your hearts, give love, and figure out the ways where people need that. Even to the bishops of England yesterday, in terms of abuse, use the lessons you have learned to help children who are being abused in other situations. How to go about that? Well, again, the general idea has been set in motion. So again, this is not the kind of thing we want to see shake out in a week, 2 weeks. We still have to go back and read the text. There's so much intense stuff in it. It's going to take time. Yeah. But again, we'll do this in 10 years and see what the fruits are.
There you go. We'll see you here for that. No, but it's interesting because when we brought this point up the other day, it's turning the tide of culture and changing a culture is not a very easy thing to do. You can change policy, and when you compare those two things, when you compare the change of a policy to not only the implementation of a policy, like speaking of sexual abuse, for example, you can change policies on how things are dealt with, but then changing attitudes and cultures and sort of that tidal wave of the way things have been for so many years or decades or centuries is a little bit more difficult thing to do. So yeah, well, it'll be something that we'll have to come back and look at down the road and see if it got accomplished.
Exactly. Well, it's funny because I don't like drawing comparisons with John Paul II too much because they're two different figures, but John Paul II's trip to Ireland, especially in 1979, was seen as a kind of seismic, as a cultural revolution, as, again, giving the church to the young people. I think that's more than his trip to Britain in 1982 is the parallel here. Again, because maybe, young people in general in the church don't feel like, well, the church belongs to me, I need to step up and have a role leadership. Now, the line has always been, you're the leaders of tomorrow in the church. Well, no, here's the Pope saying, you are the leaders of today. Yeah. Bring your ideas, bring your enthusiasm, bring your everything, your generation, everything unique you have to bring. And so, and with that, we bring every generational change is a cultural change. And of course, our generation has been formed so different, and really to engage with the world. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it pans out. Here in the States, we're still adapting the ideas the Holy Father brought us 2 years ago, and we're still in the early stages of that. So keep an eye. Again, with Benedict, he never just plays for a day or 5, but for the long ball.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Go long.
Yeah, exactly. It was a historic week, and just in terms of, as somebody said, the shattering of the Protestant myth in England, or the end of the Protestant Empire in England. That this, the Catholics really have arrived on the stage, and I don't think we can understand that so much in American context. But it'll be fascinating to see how it plays out going forward.
Rocco, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all your insights, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again soon.
We made it. We survived.
Yes, we did.
It's great being here.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Rocco.
guys. Thank you.
Rocco.
Indeed, we did survive with our old friend Rocco Palmo there. Well, of course, as the Pope unpacks his bags from London, he really needs to keep his passport handy there because he has a busy autumn ahead of him, as we hear now from Rome Reports.
Pope Benedict XVI will have a full schedule after he returns from the United Kingdom. His fall calendar looks to be one of the busiest in his pontificate. The first big public event on his schedule will take place on October 3rd in the Italian city of Palermo, Sicily, where he'll close the Italian Meeting of Families. He'll also meet with seminarians and priests at the cathedral and young people in the city's main square. Also in October, the Pope will meet with church leaders at the Synod of Bishops and its Special Assembly for the Middle East. The church leaders and representatives from the region will address problems such as the exodus of Christians from the Holy Land, relations with Orthodox churches, and creating interreligious harmony with Islam. Then on October 17th, the Pope will canonize 6 new saints, among them the Canadian Holy Cross religious Brother André Basset, the Spanish nun Juana Josefa Cepitria y Badiola, founder of the Congregation of the Daughters of Jesus, and Australian nun Mary MacKillop, who will become the first saint of the continent. In November, Benedict XVI will travel to Spain. It will be his second pastoral visit to the country. On the 6th, he'll make a pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela, the final destination for the Camino de Santiago pilgrims, who also hope to receive the indulgence with the Jubilee year dedicated to St. James. The Pope will preside over a special Mass outdoors in the Cathedral Square. Inside, he'll embrace the statue of St. James, who's believed to be buried there. The next day, on November 7th, the Pope will be in Barcelona, where he'll proclaim and inaugurate the Basilica of the Holy Family, designed and built by the late Antoni Gaudí. Later, he'll visit a foundation which helps people with disabilities. By the end of the year, it appears likely that the Pope will call a consistory for the creation of new cardinals, bringing the college back up to its 120 members under the age of 80 who can participate in a conclave. The new cardinals are chosen from around the world, and it gives a true sense of the universal church. In late November, another important event on the calendar includes the release of a book-long interview with Benedict XVI. The German journalist Peter Siewald met with the Pope last July in Castel Gandolfo for a series of interviews which will be featured in the book. The busy fall schedule, consisting of papal journeys, meetings, and a synod of bishops, culminates a year marked by big challenges and events, from the struggle in addressing the problem of sexual abuse to papal journeys to Cyprus and Portugal, and to the culmination of celebrations of the Year for Priests.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back. When we return, it's a weekend for everyone to be Irish. We'll take you to the Great Irish Fair.
Like everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day, I guess anybody who comes to the fair is Irish for the day.
Well, finally tonight, it just wouldn't be September at all without a little blarney in Brooklyn. And no, I'm not talking about my Irish step dancing. I could think of a few other words for that. But it's the Great Irish Fair, actually. It's an annual fundraiser to support Catholic schools in Brooklyn and Queens, and features no dancing by me at all.
No. Thank goodness. Okay.
Yes.
Well, last weekend brought out the Irish in everyone except Matt as folks headed to MCU Park in Coney Island. And if you weren't there, well, this should make you green with envy. Check it out.
It was always like a family tradition to come to the fair, and I've been here since I was a toddler, always with my grandfather, following him around. I never thought that it would actually happen, that I'd be calling Queen, but here I am today.
We're really excited to be back here once again in Coney Island. It's our 29th Great Irish Fair, and we're expecting over 20,000 people. Part of it's celebrating Irish culture, and it's also giving thanks to the gifts that we received in Catholic education. All proceeds go to the Alive and Hope Foundation for Catholic Schools, and it's an organization and a cause that we're quite proud of.
every Catholic school that I've been to, it's always like a family. Like they care a lot about you. They care about where you're going in life. And even when you leave there, they're still with you. If you come back, ask for help or whatever else, they're going to be there for you. So I think it's a very great and positive experience for you to have. My president, President Dugan, he actually received an award today, so we came out to support him.
150 years ago, the Franciscan brothers came to establish St. Francis College for this immigrant group that was having a very tough time acclimating themselves to America. That group happened to be the Irish. Now, the immigrants today and the people who come to St. Francis are different, but they're all immigrants, children of immigrants, and first-time college-goer type people. That's what I was.
I'm coming from Serbia. That's a small country from Eastern Europe. I have a double major. I have a business and I have economic orientation in finance. Experience is proved Catholic schools have great leaders, you know, in the past, right now.
Soldiers are we, whose lives are pledged to us.
Our culture is within the fabric of our entire society. It's an important part of our lives, our faith, our belief in the country, and it's nice to be reminded of it.
It's a win and it's a win. We're here to have fun and we're here to do a very good thing.
It's really nice here. Really, people are happy, look happy. You can recognize Irish here. You can just turn around and see people that's really Irish.
Something about the fair, it just feels like home.
I meant to wear my green today. I've just completely forgot.
Well, you know, really the only time I think about that is in March.
Right, right. And I did wear, you know, at the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I got to go to my very first St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York back in the spring, and that was really cool. And down Fifth Avenue and all of that, it was really a lot of fun. And I had the bright green shirt on. I was really getting into the spirit. A lot of people, of course, getting into the spirit out at MCU Park as well. So.
That's true. My favorite thing about that parade is the bagpipes.
Yes.
And actually, one of my neighbors here in Brooklyn has them and practices them on Saturdays. And as long as he does it in the afternoon and not in the early morning, I'm all set with that.
Love it.
It works for me as long as it's afternoon time.
Could be you should call him the night before and say, okay, I have to get up at this time in the morning. Start playing your bagpipes then, you know. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Now coming up tomorrow, kicking off 40 Days for Life. We'll show you what's being done in our area. But in the meantime, you can check us out online. We're at currentsny.net. We're also over on Facebook and Twitter. And if you have a story idea, maybe you just want to say hi to us, you can drop us a line at currentsny.net. Until next time, I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great night. Bagpipes and all.